Welcome to the Postpartum Coach podcast, where we embrace our needs as moms, we learn to lead ourselves first, then our families, and where we create our own healing from the inside out to find our way to the work we were meant to do in this world. I'm your host, a fellow mom of 3 and a certified life coach, Lizzie Langston. Hello, babes. You guys, when I play the intro for myself, I let it play and then it stops and then I pause it and then I start recording. And when I do that, I notice that I sit up and I put my hair that I don't have back. I have a pixie cut for those who don't follow me on Instagram and see me, pictures of me. And it's awesome how I just caught myself doing that. Like I was getting ready to do this big, important interview as if somebody could see me back here. And then no, you can't. Nobody can, but it's so fun. I absolutely love. It's delicious to my soul to do these podcast episodes. I want to give a quick shout out to my clients. Some of you guys, especially you brand new ones, I just wanted to say to everyone, I love y'all. I love y'all. And I know you guys listen to this podcast pretty faithfully. I know you got your lives going and stuff, but I want to say this to everybody. But can I just say to you guys that work with me, you are the most amazing women. And I'm sure everybody is here. You're all amazing. I just happen to get to see the amazingness of my clients really up close and personal. And so just take this, put it in your heart. You just are. You're amazing women. You are leading, I feel like, the battlefront of the next generation. And it's not easy. I was just talking to a client on a consult. She's now a client, but we were talking about in your 30s, your 20s, you kind of just do what you think you're supposed to do. And you kind of live within the roles and you don't question anything and you're more or less happy there. Late 20s, early 30s, you start to be like, is this even what I want to be doing? Do I even like this motherhood thing? All these babies that I have, what did I really think about this? And I feel like your 30s, you start to drop into this more intentional place. No offense to my baby girls in their 20s. It's cool. I got you. But something about that next decade of your life, especially with 2020 and the turn of another decade, literally 2020, right? That next 10 years, I think there's just been so many of us who are contemplating where our life is and how much money we are making and how do we want to wait to make more money? Do we want to go ahead and take that into our own hands and make more money? We start being reparenting ourselves. Do we want to reparent ourselves and kind of nurture ourselves away from maybe some of the things how our parents parented us, change some of those things and take our lives truly into our own hands? And I want to invite you guys, even if you're in your 20s, if you haven't kind of done that self-evaluation already, do that. I think most of you, though, are yes, oh my gosh, yes, that's totally what's been going on. I wouldn't call it a full-on identity crisis, but almost like an individuality crisis. Am I being myself truly? Because after, a decade of doing things for other people, you just put your head up and you're like, am I doing this for me? And I want to do this for me. How can I do this for me in the way that I actually want to do it? So that's so yummy and delicious. And along those lines, and in that time when we're questioning these things, I think what happens is women start to really tune into their passions. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Is women want to start businesses or they want to get a job. They want to get back into the workforce. So whatever work it is that you're doing, and this can relate to full-time stay-at-home moms too, but specifically today I'm going to be talking to those of you whose baby is 2 years old or younger. So you're technically still postpartum. By the way, that's my definition of postpartum is your baby is under 24 months old. And you happen to have started a business, whether it's a MLM side gig or you have a part-time job or you're building things and putting them on Etsy or you're a coach or some sort of other service. Maybe you're an energy worker or a doula or postpartum midwife or whatever the thing is. There's a special dilemma that kind of happens when we are postpartum, our body's still recovering. I had a college professor one time tell me it was a child development or I don't remember parenting class. I don't remember the exact class title, but he said the research shows that if we want to give our bodies a full recovery after having a baby, we don't conceive again for 2 years. And that's kind of why I call it postpartum, 24 months. It kind of takes our bodies 24 months to get all the way recovered from growing a baby, having the baby, and then nursing and all the recovering. Probably depending on how long you nurse for, but maybe not. Now, I definitely didn't follow that rule. Not at all. I even knew that, but still had 3 babies in 4 years. Crazy. So it's not like I'm saying if you didn't do that, you're wrong or something. But what I'm saying is that's why I call that first 24 months postpartum. And again, in your 30s, you're still having babies oftentimes, especially your early 30s, or some of us are late 30s. More power to you. I'm like, hell yeah, get it, girl. 40, do it. But we start to delve into our own business and we kind of wake back up into like our passions. And I see a lot of us feeling led to do something. And many of you guys are coaches like I am, or just starting a coaching business. And there's lots of other kinds of businesses. And I've noticed this special little balance because I did it. So to give you, I'm going to speak to the balance. Let me tell you where this episode comes from. Besides seeing many women starting businesses in their 30s after 2 or 3 or 4 babies, I did this. So I actually started my coaching business when I was postpartum with my 3rd baby. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of reasons why I think it's like the best thing ever to start a business and become an entrepreneur as a young mom. It's kind of like a declaration I want to make to the world. Maybe we can talk about that sometime. But I did talk about it on my Instagram stories a little bit, why I feel like young moms are so good at sales and marketing naturally because they have to do it all the time with their little kids. You can go check that out. But yeah, there's this group of us, it's ever growing, where we are postpartum with a baby and postpartum with business. So that was me. I started my business when I was like 9 months postpartum. And I had found coaching to get out of postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And I loved it. And not only did it help me get stable enough to just feel comfortable and good in my motherhood again. And, I was talking to myself kindly. I was actually even using coaching to lose weight. It was great. It gave me so much power and control. And I just was so in love with it that I jumped into business pretty quickly after I did that. So I was baby postpartum and I was business postpartum, because when you first start a business for about 9 months to a year or more, but that first year especially, you are postpartum business. Like your business baby is very new. And you as an owner of a new baby business, you feel very postpartum. You sometimes literally lose sleep at night. I remember so many nights losing sleep, thinking about how to make more money or how to make it work, how to get it off the ground, thinking about, am I spending my time the right way? And then the mom guilt too, thinking about, is this even going anywhere? And I'm taking all this time away from my kids and I'm investing this money in my business from our family. You can feel crazy half the time, just like you do when you have a brand new baby postpartum. And so hopefully you're like nodding your head. You're like, yes. I wanted to speak to this a little bit because as the postpartum coach, who I specialize in birth trauma, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, all that good stuff. But then also as a woman who has grown within 2 years, I would say strongly over 6 figures in the last 12 months that I've earned. And so to do that and also have started it postpartum, I feel like there's this unique perspective that I can give you and that I want to share with you about being a postpartum woman, right? In the first 2 years of your baby growing up to toddlerhood. And then also being business owner postpartum, when your business baby is postpartum. And I'm pretty pumped because these are 2 of my passions. I love business and I love taking care of postpartum moms and helping them feel strong and healthy and getting recentered. And it's not just, sometimes like people come to me not just for postpartum related help, but they happen to be postpartum and they also happen to really gravitate towards the way that I do things, the life that I live, what I preach, what I teach. So I just want to kind of clarify that. I don't want you guys to take postpartum too literally. It's like if your baby is under 2 years old and you want to work with me, hop on game on. Let's do it. All right. So I have 3 points today that I want to address specifically for women who are postpartum in the first 2 years and business postpartum. The first thing is when you're growing a business and even in the workforce, there's a lot of masculine energy. There's a lot of masculine energy, and you even can get around a lot of women who are in very masculine energy. And if you're not used to that, if that's new for you, when you're freshly postpartum, it can rock with your motherhood. It can mess your motherhood a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with masculine energy. And in fact, ideally, we have both masculine and feminine energy. So I'm new to chakras, but I work with an energy worker, and she was telling me, I think she said the bottom 3 chakras are masculine and the top 3 are feminine. We have 6 chakras. I could be all wrong in that. You guys come after me if I'm totally wrong. But I thought that was fascinating how we as individuals are naturally have the ability to be balanced with masculine and feminine energy. So some examples of masculine energy, let me just clarify this, are like that grit and that hustle. And honestly, sometimes when women get into business, they kind of act like men a little bit, because I don't know, but I think sometimes it's because if they are learning business from a man, or genuinely, I think that women have had to kind of be masculine to even make it in business because it was ran by men for so long. Now there's so many women teaching other women business that you don't have to take on that masculine energy. But before I found my tribe of choice in the business world of women learning business and teaching me business, and my mentors and coaches of choice, I noticed myself taking on a lot of masculine energy. And it just left me kind of calloused in my motherhood. So one thing that I help postpartum women do who might be postpartum in a business is, as they grow their business, continually checking in on their motherhood. Another way this kind of manifests, and just balancing your motherhood. Another way this manifests is when you kind of run away from your motherhood into your business. And I might have talked about that in Superwoman Syndrome, that podcast episode a couple back. But yeah, I noticed that women tend to, and this was me, I kind of used my business as a way out of a motherhood that didn't feel fun anymore, and I didn't know how to make it fun, and I felt a lot of shame about that. I would feel boredom, I would feel irritation, and I just didn't think I was a very good mom according to the definitions of motherhood that I had. And that's sad to me to this day, to think that I didn't know how to love me, who is in love with business. I always gravitated towards the men's conversations. When we would get together as couples, I always wanted to talk with the men about business. I didn't gravitate towards chatting about the kids and their stuff. I mean, I did sometimes, but I had a big presence that way in business, even before I had a business. I was always interested in it. So that's one thing I see is women kind of, leaning too masculine, getting too far into the business, and they're using it as a way to kind of buffer out of a motherhood that's not feeling good. So that's just something to be aware of. I just wanted to bring that to your awareness. I think that when we're trying to do so much at once, right? Raising this baby, maybe you have other babies like me. I had 3 and under for a bit, and then 4 3 and under, 4 and I didn't ever have 4 kids, I don't think. 3 4 and under, that's what it was, not 4 and under. But when we're trying to do so much, and we have so much to do, like the family and the business, this can happen. The next thing I wanted to kind of point out, bring to awareness, offer, is that constraint allows movement. When you are postpartum and you have never done business before, you mostly at home with babies, especially with COVID, we're all at home so much. And you're also trying to learn business. and you have maybe some spare money that you and your husband have agreed to put into your business, it can be really, there's so many sexy offerings and there's so many groups, depending on what your business is or what your workforce is, that you want to reinvest in. There's so many things you could spend your money on and technically feel good about because you're like, oh, I'm investing in my business. And it can be a little bit of a wormhole and you have to be careful. I remember one time I had signed up to sell, which one was it? I've done a couple MLMs. I've done doTERRA, which I loved, and I've done LipSense. I think that's all I've done. But anyway, I think it was Senegence and LipSense, and I had signed up to sell for them, and I invested like $1,200 in a bunch of inventory, and it was so easy to justify because I was like, I'm going to sell all this stuff. And anyway, that's kind of different because that wasn't my end all be all business choice where I stayed in it forever. I was kind of still experimenting. I was like in my mid 20s and just kind of getting my feet wet in the whole business world, which was preparing me for later this coaching practice that I now run, taking the world over. But I remember like buying all this stuff that I didn't even need at all. And I remember it felt so fun to have a way to spend money and not feel bad about it because it was, quote, business stuff. So anyway, that's one thing I wanted to mention is constraining to just what you need at first. And I don't mean that in a scarcity mindset, but like really question the investments you're making, because when you constrain and just focus, like for me personally, I have just picked one business coach. I joined her preliminary program and now I'm in her more advanced program. I've paid her thousands and thousands of dollars, but I've picked one and I just do what she says. And I hear all sorts of really great business ideas here and there. And I'm like, cool. And I'm not doing any of them. I'm just doing this because as I put all of my energy into one business model, it's just easier for me to be successful. And just like, I don't have to spend as much time making decisions and deciding on investments and which coach should I hire. It's just, I have her, I know what she teaches, and I get deeper and deeper into her concepts, and it helps me grow faster and not divert my energy and attention. So that's something that your attention is already so diverted. It can be in moments with the children and all the things, that the more constraint you can have in your business, the easier it will feel since you're already postpartum as a mom as well. And then just to take that one step further, when it comes to hiring babysitters and talking with your husband, there's one question that I love asking, and I ask this to myself in business and in motherhood, which is, how can I make this easier and more simple and more fun? But specifically easier. How could I make this easier? So if it's feeling like it's taking a lot of energy to figure out how you're going to get work hours, or maybe you're not hiring childcare and you're just working from home with the kids, and you're noticing you're snapping a lot and you're finding yourself really wishing you weren't around them and you just really want your own space. That was me. Like, some moms can really rock the work at home and do the kids thing. And I could if I needed to. And for a while I did financially. It just wasn't, we weren't ready to be paying for childcare, but it was pretty nice to go ahead and use some money and invest in childcare. And by the way, I didn't always have that money. I even sometimes had to use money I didn't have and use a credit card to pay for childcare. Do I recommend that? Not necessarily, but I was that committed and I just knew that I was going to make money doing what I was doing. Like, it wasn't up for debate. It was just going to happen. So for me, it made sense. But yeah, how can I make this easier? Constraining. That will really help your sweet mom brain as you're already in your body, as you're already recovering. And then the last point I want to make with this, and there's so much more I could say. If you ever want to chat, if you're like loving this, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to know more, just DM me on Instagram and I'll, depending on other questions you have, or if you're really wanting to know more, I might do some sort of training on this topic. But the third one is hustling. You cannot afford to do this. So what's really common in the first year or so of business is hustling. And this is something that if you're postpartum, with like baby postpartum, you can't afford to do this. And so my recommendation is to find yourself a business mentorship or group or whatever program, however you want to learn business, like pick one who has a mom at the helm, literally like someone who has had kids. And actually, I'm going to say, like, maybe it doesn't have to be someone who's had kids per se, but you want to learn business from somebody who is calm and mature and steady in their business. You don't want to be hustling after a hustler. You don't want to be learning from people who are hustling. You want to be learning from people who are going to help you be calm and abundant and relaxed and mature in your business, especially if you want your business to outgrow, to live beyond you and to make more money than you can make with time. Like if you want to scale this business and have it be a real asset to your family and to your life, start from the beginning in a calm tone. Even if that means you grow more slowly, I promise you, actually, hustling is very slow. It feels fast, and the amount of money you make is slow. So let me say that again. What I mean by hustling, by the way, is when you are doing a lot and you're thinking about business a lot and you're not resting a lot and you're kind of in this temporary mindset of it's just for a little while until I can start making money so I can prove to myself or prove to my husband that I can really do this, or so that I can feel like I'm a legitimate coach or whatever your profession is. That's hustling, and it's tricky because it's empty. It's not actually something that produces. It's like putting sunshine and water on a seed that just is not going to grow very well for you. It's just poor soil. So the sunshine and water is like all the actions and buying the programs, but if you have great sunshine and water, but you have crappy soil, that thing's not going to grow. And the soil is your mindset and your stillness and the quality of your thoughts, right? You can have soil that's got a couple nutrients, or you can have very nutrient dense soil that really helps your plant grow quickly. And so you are your working asset in your business and your body. And this becomes essential to focus on and look at postpartum if you're growing a business, because you're already at a deficit in the sense that you're already not getting as much sleep as maybe a typical business owner. You're already doing so much during the day with your hands and your legs and your abdomen and your whole body to try to raise the babies, pick up the baby, clean the house. So just be careful and make sure that you're not hustling. And I wanted to make a little pitch here on this, which is that I learned this the hard way, you guys. And maybe it's not as much a pitch as it is just sharing my story. So when I first started my business, hustle was like my default, and it's just what I thought you did. Plus I was excited, and I was also continuing to recover from my own depressiveness in my motherhood and anxiety. And there was a lot of shame and honestly some trauma from having depression and never anticipating it and all that went wrong and hard, the hard stuff during that time. And I hadn't processed it. So I took all that with me into my business, and I ran faster than I had strength, as the scripture says. Like, I don't remember what scripture it is. In the Book of Mormon, it says run faster, don't run faster than you have strength, or something like that. I was totally running faster than I had strength. And so twice within the first year of my business, I had to take big chunks of time off. One of the times it was only March. I think this was 2019. And it was March of 2019. And by March, I was totally burnt out. I had been trying to create an e-course from December to March, and I had invested all this money, and it wasn't the way that my life coach school taught me to do it. That's what I'm saying, though. When you don't constrain, you're just like, oh, maybe this will do. Maybe I'll do this. Oh, this person's doing this, and you just jump all over the place. And it just takes away from your momentum. But anyway, so I hustled so hard, I had to take the whole month of March off in 2019. And then I remember around the holidays at some point, I, again, had just been trying to do all the things, but I wasn't watching my brain as much. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I wasn't balanced. And I got a little too deep into business to where I was feeling really burnt out and ready for a break. So this is just something to be aware of, and make sure that you kind of check over these different areas as you are a postpartum woman who also happens to be running a business and you are a postpartum business owner. I hope this was helpful. If you ever want to work with me, just come work with me, walk and work. We'll walk and work together. If you want my help and my expertise, I'm not a business coach. I'm going to preface that right now. Don't come to me for business. But if you are wanting to build a business, but you're still postpartum and you want to make sure that your motherhood and who you are as a person stays whole, safe, and protected as you grow that business postpartum, I'm your girl. So it's just LizzieLangston.com/consult. This is fun. Can we talk about business all the time? If you guys ever want to know more Or like, if you ever want to suggest a topic too, if you're like, oh, I really want to hear her talk about this, or I want her to answer this question, just email me. I invite you. I invite your comments and I invite your questions for the podcast. I will take them into consideration. So it's lizlangstoncoaching. Or no, I'm not even .comming. It's lizlangstoncoaching@gmail.com. LIZLAN as in Nancy, GSTON as in Nancy, coaching@gmail.com. If you email me there and just put the subject as podcast, I will be happy to see what topics you guys are wanting me to talk about or any interest points that you have. Or if you just want to tell me how great you're loving the podcast. By the way, please leave me a review if you haven't. I know there's a few of you who are like, I have to get on and leave you a review. I've been meaning to. Your podcast is so awesome. And just a little friendly reminder. I know it's holiday season, but if you want to be so sweet and leave me a review, I know that there's so many women who, want this podcast but haven't found it yet, because anytime somebody does find this podcast, they're like, where have you been? I'm so glad I found you. I just Googled it and I'm so glad I found you. So your reviews help women find us here in this community. All right. Love you guys to the end, to the death, till death do we part, whatever, all the things. And we'll talk next week. Bye. Hey, Lizzie here. I've helped dozens of postpartum moms just like you to manage their postpartum anxiety and deconstruct their postpartum depression. It's really easy for me. So if you're ready to feel better, I know the way. Let's chat on the phone. Set up a time by going to LizzieLangston.com/consult. It's pretty simple, and I will be calling you soon.